So we get to start a drawing of somebody who is a student here at Folsom High School. And we're going to start the same way we start all the drawings. So we're going to get a height and a width. So this height is going to be 7 inches. That's a good distance because you don't want to go too small when you're drawing the face. It's actually, I think, a little bit easier to draw a little bit bigger. So here's the height and the width, and I'm using those little tick marks to kind of show the height here. And in a minute, we'll get the width. So I want to show you actually on the picture what I'm doing. I'm measuring the width of his face, so cheekbone to cheekbone, and I'm comparing it to the height. So I am comparing how much the width relates to the height, and that's the little mark that I put there. So the width of the face is about 2/3 of the height. So knowing that can help me because I already have the height in place. So I'm just double checking it here. I'm showing you again. This is what I'm doing. There's the width, cheekbone to cheekbone, and then I'm taking that width and drawing it on the height of the head, so how tall it is, and comparing it. So it's about 2/3. And then I'm going to do the same thing to my paper where I get that measurement for that 2/3 mark, and that will help me with the width. Okay, so here we go. That is about the midway point. So that's halfway in the face, and then I'm going to find where the width, how that relates to the height. In just a moment. I'm double checking. So I'm moving my midway point. I'm double checking, making sure that that's the true halfway point in the face. So remember, the eyes can always be found on that midway point unless the head's tilted up or down. And there is going to be the measurement. That's about 2/3 of the face for about the distance from cheekbone to cheekbone. So I'm relating one thing that I know, and that's how I'm able to get like the measurement for the width. So as long as I have the height, I can use that as a basis for comparison. I'm using 2 pencils here to get the width, just to make sure I have it. You can also eyeball it. You don't have to use the measuring thing. I just feel like for me, the measuring helps me to be accurate. And if you wanted to really measure it, it's about 4.5 inches across. It's kind of a cheater method, but that's the measurement. It's about 4.5 across. So much different from the head and profile where we had the equal distance for the height as the width. This is not the same because it's in 3/4. Okay, so now I'm going to get the gesture of the head. So I am looking at and kind of doing this angular transfer thing. And I'm going to make that head a little bit more geometric than I think it actually is. So I'm looking at those angles and I'm making kind of a geometric version of his head there. So I'm just looking at the outside line there, the outline really, almost like you're drawing a silhouette. So I'm going to speed this up for you so you can see what the gesture looks like when it's finished. But you can see that I'm like comparing angle to angle and I'm adjusting things as I go. I'm keeping in mind where that eye line is, that dividing line through the middle of the head, because the kind of brow and cheekbone go in there, and then they pop back out. There's about where the ear is. You can see a little bit of his hoodie. Setting the angle on the jaw and on the face, making sure that's correct. And I'm still going pretty light at this stage. You do want to compare one shoulder to the next, like which one's higher, which one's a little bit lower. I'm looking at where the shoulder ties into the face on that right-hand side. On the left-hand side, it's a little bit different. I'm looking more at the negative shape. So there's the overall gesture right here. Okay, so I worked a little bit off camera. You already had the eye line, which is right in the middle of the head. Remember, you have to kind of think about the head as being shaven because the hair usually is sticking up above the hairline. So think about that as far as like where to find the top of the head, and then you find the eyebrows. Once you have the hairline in there, you go hairline to chin, divide that into thirds. Nose is going to be on the middle third, eyebrows are on the top third, and then from the nose to the chin, you divide that into thirds to find the middle of the mouth. So this should sound all very familiar to you. Just so you know, that eye that is on the right side, it's really his left eye. That's going to be a lot smaller than the eye on the left-hand side. So you need to really look at the features, because the features will be a little bit distorted. You're going to see more of like the nose, for instance, on one side of the face and less of the nose on the other. Same with the mouth. Just like the eye on the left, his right eye is going to be bigger than the left eye. You can see I drew kind of a vertical axis. It's a little bit of a curved vertical axis on the face so that you can really see that you're seeing more of one side of the face than the other. You are really seeing 3/4 on one side and the last quarter on the other side. That's why it's called 3/4. And I'm just citing the nose line there. And you really want to think of it kind of as a puzzle piece. You're trying to figure out where things go and how they line up, and using plumb lines to figure out like where the edge of the nose is or where the mouth ends in relationship to the eyes. So it's okay if at first the person's looking a little bit generic. That's pretty typical of drawing the face. And then you make them look a little bit more like the person you're actually drawing as you go. But you do want to pay attention to some things, like the crease that he has above his eye. You want to get that in there now. And I'm looking and comparing how, if I can fit like an eye in between the two eyes, and if so, is it a full eye size or not? And that just helps me figure out the relationship between the two eyes, if it's a one full eye or if it's like part of an eye there. Trying to figure out the placement of the nostrils. Does not have to be perfect at this stage. Try not to make them too open, so they look kind of like candy canes on their side or like a teardrop kind of shape. Okay, so finally we're going to pop in that mouth in there. And again, really think about that halfway mark on the face, that vertical axis that's dividing the face in half. It's not in half equally, but there is more of the mouth seen on that left side than on the right. So the mouth is much shorter on the short hand side.